Hello, and welcome to episode 80 of Cutscene Combos. This week we have got a character profile on Invincible, not Marvel or DC this week. Exciting. We've got the review of Blue Beetle. We have The Great Exchange. I will be giving Hori my first thoughts on Rebels, and he will be giving me his first thoughts on Invincible. Exciting. We will, of course, be discussing Ahsoka episodes 1 and 2, which debuted yesterday. We've got a small but still tasty Nerd News Network this week before we wrap everything up with the Content Championship, which is Netflix Punisher versus the CW's Flash. But before that good stuff, Horizontal, how's your week been?
I'm busy. I feel like
that sounded painful.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember order of events. Usual weekend, seeing the girlfriend, chilled. That was helped my mate, and we're working in his garden again on his house. So that was one day doing gardening work, touching grass.
You
for
touch
once,
grass.
Yeah.
You're getting old, Hori. You're playing less video games than you're touching grass and gardening. I know we joke that you're old all the time, but Jesus Christ, man, not like this.
It's fun. It's I'm embracing it. It's fun. But then it's been working, and then I think it was like no, not Monday. Must have been. No, it was. I think it was Friday. I've lost track. It's either Friday or Monday. I just was like, I'm going to start rearranging my room. Just like...
It was Tuesday. It was 2 days
ago.
Was it
Tuesday? I can't. Yeah, okay, it was Tuesday then. I've lost all sense of time. I think I was like waiting on some work to like render out, and I was like, I've been thinking about rearranging my room for a little while, wanting to kind of freshen up the space. And then it was like 9 p.m. and I'm just like, yep, just started.
Now it's time.
Yeah. So
100%.
Big clear out under the bed of boxes. Cleared out more like my old PC box for the PC that I've play games on. I had like every box for like the motherboard, the graphics card, like things I don't need anymore. All I've kept of it is the actual PC case box if I ever need to like move my PC a long distance.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's flat packed and put away. Moved wardrobes around. Also, clearing out that PC box, found the invoice for my PC and all the parts of when
really?
I got it. 2014.
2014.
It's 9.5
years. That is a soldier. Have you done any upgrades in that time?
It's had a new graphics card and it's had a new hard drive.
Oh, that's not bad though.
Yeah, obviously I've gone through like 2 or 3 mice, headsets.
But the actual hardware itself.
The keyboard, my keyboard is still the keyboard I have. The keyboard is 9.5 years old.
And you beat the shit out of that keyboard.
I do.
As well. I've heard you type.
The keys are very worn, but the keyboard itself. But yeah, found that out and I was like, oh no, I really need a PC upgrade. And then I've just been moving like wardrobes around, shelves behind me, moving my lighting and stuff. But yeah, feeling way more open spaced in here. Gonna set up the corner to be like a nice aesthetic backdrop and maybe start doing YouTube videos again as a plan. And then yeah, work in between, doing that in between work has been my week. So actually quite a busy week for me.
Yeah.
How's the working world been?
Put it this way, I need this bank holiday weekend. I need it. Like viscerally need it. Yeah, it's one of them like random chaotic weeks where like because of a lot of what I'm doing at the minute, it's just like it's not project work at the minute. It's I repair things and just repair them as on a consistent basis. But it's just me doing it in the entire country. So there are days where I'm just muddling through and it's all fine, and then you'll have days where the thing you're working on is really, really in a bad state and is a lot more intensive to get it to behave. And then you'll have days where the requirement of what is needed goes through the roof out of nowhere. Because it's not just one thing, it's 6 items.
Right.
And like the demand for each fluctuates.
Yeah.
So yeah, we try and have an amount ready to go at all times, but then at any given time something goes wrong and that entire stock is wiped out and you're like, rambling.
Yeah, that's not the best.
So I mean, it's less than ideal, but we move. But yeah, we've got bank holiday weekend this weekend, so it's a 4-day week next week, and then I'm off the week after that.
Nice.
So some rest is coming, and I have earned it. But other than
Nice.
that, not too much. It's just lots of boring paperwork being filled out at the minute to try and make this flat a reality. Which feels like it's going very slowly and a million miles an hour all at the same time. So it's weird.
I'm sure it'll all work out.
Yeah, eventually, one way or the other. But you've made my job very easy this week, Mr. Zontal.
I have.
Because there's not a lot of superhero content out at the minute.
There isn't.
Which always makes character profiles difficult. I was hoping Blue Beetle might give us one worth doing, but not really. I've kind of already milked that dry a little bit.
Yeah.
But you finally caught up on Invincible.
I have.
So I thought, what a brilliant time to milk Invincible for all of its worth. So our character profile this week is on the man himself, Mark Grayson, aka Invincible. So this character profile is built off of the comics and not the Amazon cartoon based off the comics. Because as anyone who has consumed any of both of them will know, stuff doesn't happen in the exact same way and there are slight differences.
Right.
So Invincible, aka Marcus Sebastian Grayson, aka Mark Grayson, first appeared in Invincible #1 in January 2003 from Image Comics. First character profile not on a Marvel or DC character.
Ooh.
Born to Nolan Grayson, a Viltrumite male who lived on Earth and operated as superhero Omni-Man, and human female Deborah Grayson. From the age of 7, he was aware of who his dad was, an alien sent from the planet of Viltrum to protect Earth, and that one day Mark would also develop powers like his father. So Mark's known from a very, very young age that his dad's a superhero and he will be super powerful one day as well. Many years later, Mark had grown discontent that his powers had not yet manifested, but still sought to protect people, leading him to getting beaten up by a bully after standing up for a classmate. After this scuffle, his head teacher informed him to be careful, you're not invincible, you know. So once Mark's powers did manifest and he needed a name, he decided he'd go with Invincible.
Smart play.
Exactly. During the earlier days of his crime fighting, he would meet a team of superheroes called the Teen Team, which consisted of Robot, Duplicate, Rexplode, and Atom Eve. Atom Eve was also a classmate of Mark's, which led to them becoming friends both at work and in their social lives. Even as going as far as when Eve finds out that her boyfriend, Rexplode, has been cheating on her with their teammate Duplicate, and that she's going to leave the Teen Titans team, she came to see Mark first. While Mark was comforting Eve, Nolan arrives home to announce that the Guardians of the Globe have been found dead. Mark is invited to join the new Guardians team alongside the old Teen Team and some other heroes. However, due to Eve refusing to join the new Guardians of the Globe and Nolan disapproving of the Guardians of the Globe and Mark joining, he decides that he would not join them. Being upset at a number of situations going on, he went out to collect a new issue of his favourite comic, Science Dog. While out at his comic book shop collecting Science Dog, he sees a news report of his father fighting the supposedly dead Immortal from the original Guardians of the Globe. So Mark quickly runs out, suits up, and flies to the scene, just in time to see Nolan rip Immortal in two. It's at this point Nolan reveals to Mark that he killed the Guardians and that Viltrumites weren't peacekeeping agents, but rather all powerful conquerors. Nolan invites his son to join him and take over the planet, as due to Mark's extended lifespan, he will outlive everyone he cares for, so why bother? Mark disagrees and they fight. Nolan beats Mark to a pulp, causing mass civilian casualties throughout the battle. However, despite claiming he would kill him if he didn't join him, Nolan flies away and deep into space, leaving Mark on the brink of death.
And that is the end of season 1.
I don't know what you're talking about. That just so happens to be where the character profile ended. So yeah, I mean, I've been saying since I watched Invincible how fucking awesome it is. I do have
Yeah.
there
Ooh, there he goes.
the first compendium,
Nice.
of which I think there's 4, maybe 5, which I'm about a third, maybe halfway through. And I do plan on getting all of them and reading through all of them. But I mean, the character's awesome. It's very cool. And the show is awesome. But we don't have time to talk about the show just yet.
Not yet. It's coming.
Because it's time to talk about Blue Beetle.
The savior of DC.
Oh boy. I'm gonna start with the aggressive hot take.
Oh, I like it.
If you left this film and didn't at least think it was okay, superhero films aren't for you. You bought into the hype of Marvel when the entire world was in on it, and you convinced yourself you like superhero media. If you went to Blue Beetle and didn't like it, it's not that all the superhero films are bad at the minute, blah, blah, blah. You just aren't a superhero film kind of guy. And that's absolutely fine. Not everyone can be, not everyone needs to be. But this is now my litmus test for if someone just got bought into the hype of peak Marvel versus an actual superhero content fan.
Yeah. I think that's actually fairly valid.
I think it's the perfect litmus test.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's a lot there for people who aren't superhero fans. But if you are a superhero fan, you're just feasting.
Oh yeah, that was like prime superhero film. And it didn't feel like it messed up in any place.
No.
And those, like you say, I think anyone that walked away from that was like, oh, this is boring. DC's rubbish now. I should have stayed with Henry Cavill and all that. Like, nah, you were just in on the hype of Marvel and like the actors that were in DC. Like, you weren't in it for the long run.
Exactly. Exactly that. I think top to bottom, the casting of this film was really good. Everyone played their character superbly.
Yes.
The art style was really nice.
Yep,
the practical effects touched up with CGI worked really well. There's a couple of spotty scenes where you can tell it was leaning a bit on the CGI and it just wasn't quite up to scratch. But compared to some other superhero projects that have come out recently, I don't think anything abhorrent. I think overall it absolutely holds up.
I mean, there was no VFX. Like, let's think about Flash. There was moments in Flash where like the VFX, although done well, style-wise, really pulled us out of it. There was nothing in this where I was like, oh, that looked weird.
Exactly.
So, yeah, no, they nailed it there.
And we also got one of my kind of favourite styles of bad guy. You've got the big bad who's the muscle, who you're like, they're actually kind of a badass in Carapax.
Yeah.
And then you have the big bad who you literally wouldn't piss on if they're on fire in Vanessa.
Yes.
And they did them both so perfectly because they didn't try and make them more complicated than they needed to be. Carapax is obviously different to our character profile we did last week or 2 weeks ago. He wasn't an archaeologist who went wrong. He was a soldier who we find out by the end of the film was a child soldier who was then experimented on and turned into this monster and didn't know anything else. And then you have Vanessa, who is the actual monster. You know what it is? Their entire arc, them two, is Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah. It's that.
That's what that story is.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like you said, they both played their part as they needed to, and we got to see, in a way, we got to see that what everyone probably at face value was like, oh, he's the bad like villain guy because he's the guy in the big suit. Like we got to see some progression from him in his story and his character, whereas, like you say, Vanessa was evil from the start, and it just became more apparent as the film went on of how evil she was.
100%.
It's these CEOs, man.
Yeah, the big thing I have to get off the gate straight away, because I said it while we were sat in the cinema. I whispered it to Jenna straight away because she heard me gasp.
Okay.
When we're in the Cord mansion.
Yes.
And we see the painting that her mother did.
Yes.
Did Ted Cord remind you of anyone? Like off the top of your head, did you look at that and go, that is so and so? Because I did.
See, this is where I'm really bad, and I'm like, it felt familiar, but then I'm like, I'm no good at putting faces to names.
I'm gonna need you to go ahead and just picture in your mind Jason Sudeikis, or get a picture up with a full beard, not like he's in Ted Lasso with the mustache, where his normal full beard he has.
Okay.
He's googling.
I
Yeah,
am.
that is who was in that painting.
Okay.
And would you like even more evidence to back that up?
Okay, go on.
Since that, the director has said his dream casting for Ted Cord would be Jason Sudeikis.
Okay.
So I think the director has
it's done on purpose.
Yes, I want this actor, so I'm going to make it a lot easier to fit that actor in than anyone else.
Yeah, and also be like, hey, look, we already are showing that we want you. How cool is it that we've in a world picked you before we've picked you?
But this film, like, ignoring all of the funny Easter eggs, which we'll get into in a minute, because there are a lot, it hit what I've been actually saying for a little while about, yes, a certain amount of realism is needed in superhero content, but I want it to be a bit more campy and colourful and fun.
Yeah.
And they hit that. They really did.
They
comedy
nailed
hit
it.
in this.
The comedy hit. The visual style was a lot brighter and more fun. I actually really enjoyed, for the sake of like, it was an origin film, but they did it slightly unique in the sense of like, it's the first time we're meeting the character, but it's not the first Blue Beetle. We've talked about that before. Like we liked that they were doing that,
and there were references to the previous Beetles.
Yeah, and I enjoyed how you see it a lot in the origin stories. Like they get their powers, and within like weeks, they're ripped, can fight like no other. Like it's like they're suddenly just like this incredible athlete and fighter. And it's like I really enjoyed how even only right at the end did he actually start to figure out how to fight somewhat, and even then he was still sloppy. And it's like they kept it real, as in like they knew they had this suit, and we talked about how the Scarab Beetle was like sentient and it's all about protecting its host. It's like they showed early on, like that knows how to fight. So it's like if it started fighting, it's like, okay, we know they didn't need to make it so he could fight straight away. And I think that added to it and added to the funness of like him freaking out all the time and all that.
Another really cool part that I noticed is throughout the entire film, we hear a lot about how the Scarab has got to align himself with his host.
Yes.
Yeah. And you actually can see that throughout the film.
Yes.
So at the very beginning, like the first thing the Scarab picks up on is obviously Jaime's name. And it goes, hello, Jaime, and then they take off. Then after one instance, he wakes up and he knows the Scarab's name.
Yes.
Which shows a little bit of that intertwining. Then when the family is under attack and he comes back to save them, we know the Scarab's only supposed to care about the host, but the Scarab's telling him, Jaime, your family.
Yeah.
Because the Scarab knows that's what my host cares about. We're one and the same, or becoming one and the same, so I care as well. And then we get the big crescendo of that when, after they fully synchronized, the Scarab starts speaking in Spanish to him.
Yes, I love that.
And then obviously you get the big moment at the very end of not I'm not a killer when the Scarab tries to kill someone. Jaime tries to kill someone and the Scarab stops him and goes, we're not killers.
Yeah.
Just to bring that whole very simple arc that doesn't need to be overcomplicated full circle, but you can see it throughout the entire film, just them becoming more and more connected, which adds to Jaime becoming more competent throughout the film as well. Because if you can see ways they're aligning, it makes sense that they're also becoming more effective.
Yeah, it's like they gave themselves like the perfect origin storytelling tool of like,
100%.
okay, we're gonna have it so like these two things have to synchronize, and it's gonna take time because obviously with anything like that, it isn't gonna just instantly you're gonna be like synchronized with something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, why not play it into the story? And like you say, all those points which it was showing us, like they're getting more and more synced to the point where like it speaks Spanish to him, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
Also the bit right at the end where also like the Scarab has humor, which I loved. And then right at the end when he's kissing Jenny and he goes, your blood is moving to your lower regions. And it's like everyone instantly knows what's going on.
Yeah.
And but like it's stuff like that where like obviously they showed they're getting more and more connected and they start having this like humor and a relationship, even just him and the Scarab.
Yeah. And I think that is what we've always said we love about, I mean, all of our nerd media is interactions between characters. And they were so rich in this film. Every interaction, it felt like it was actually two people interacting, not two actors reading their lines from a script, which sometimes can happen.
It gave me, and I know we've said this, I think the other week, and we're expecting people to go, oh, this is just Iron Man, but DC. Just try not compare, but at the same time compare. Like it was like watching Iron Man 1 with Tony Stark and Jarvis, and like everyone was like, oh my god, this AI is cool, it's so fun.
Yeah.
It's like it's that same vibe again of like
it managed to recapture that lightning in a bottle of Iron Man 1.
Yes.
And they did a brilliant job of not fucking up by connecting it to pre-existing lore. Yes, we got references to Superman and Batman and other superheroes. No names, no faces, no acknowledgement of any events that tie it to a particular universe. So they don't really have to change anything.
Yeah, I think that was something I came out of and I was like, I'm so glad they didn't fuck this film by shoving like Wonder Woman in at the end. And like
exactly.
I was trying to explain it to my girlfriend because she was getting a bit confused when I was saying like they haven't tied it in. She's like, but they talked about Batman and Superman. Obviously, explaining that like, yeah, because they've not like shown us Henry Cavill or Ben Affleck or Gal Gadot, like that's meaning it's like it's not connected. There is no canon like hard connection to that universe, which I think has led to why James Gunn was like, he has been able to say this was the first DCU character, not the first DCU film, just because it wasn't done under him. And it's like, but they were smart and they haven't connected it.
100%.
Them saying like you say, Superman in Metropolis. Metropolis. God, my brain then. You had, they mentioned Flash in Central City.
Yeah.
And Batman in Gotham, didn't they?
Yeah.
And it's like,
I mean, he went to the University of Gotham.
Oh, yes.
So when he comes out to talk to his father in their front garden on the night before it all goes wrong, so after he's just been fired, he actually goes out there and he's wearing a University of Gotham hoodie.
I didn't quite pick up on that, but okay.
Yeah, so he was wearing a University of Gotham hoodie or a Gotham Law hoodie.
Right.
So that was clearly where he'd been studying at university before he came back. So
it's like, even though they've mentioned those things, like, that works perfectly for the DCU coming and allows 100%. James Gunn to just be like, yeah, Superman is in that place and Flash exists. And whether we meet those characters anytime soon, like it's just there open. I love the his uncle when he mentions Batman and goes, Batman's a fascist.
Which in the trailer I thought was quite weird, but in the context of the film of the character, but also what they're discussing at the time and about how he was just complimenting Blue Beetle on how he didn't take himself too seriously and he knew how to have humor with it. And then he's like, yeah, Batman, when he takes Batman's face, he's just straight faced, he just punches people, he doesn't have any fun.
Yeah.
But also more to like what I was looking for from superhero films. They've set themselves up perfectly here. If you can find a way to have the Bug in live action and people don't go, "That's dumb as shit," you can do
Yes.
anything done in comic books.
That's a good point when the bug shit, and I was just like, this is sick. And then it crashed,
Yeah,
and I was like, oh well, there goes their way out. And then it's like, nope, tank mode. And I'm
yeah.
like, oh okay, this is, and the way
If
that like
you,
it was practical as well. Like they
yeah,
built out this shit. It wasn't just them and some green screen with a few props around it. Like no, the whole thing felt like there, physical and real.
yeah. If you can make the Bug work in live action, you can make the rogues in their ridiculous outfits and their ridiculous guns work. You can make Condiment King work. If you can make the Bug work, you can absolutely make Condiment King like the first battle of the film
Mm-hmm.
to like establish where someone is in their timeline 100%.
I think realistically, like this gives us a real like the fact that James Gunn has shown he's obviously voiced his love for this and what they've made before this was even out. I think this shows like this is quite clearly going to be like insight into what the DCU is going to be like
Yeah, 100%.
and the vibe that James Gunn wants to go for.
It was so good. I mean, it even hit the emotional punches as well with
Yeah,
the way his father passed and the way she talks about her father. It all hit. I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't a surprise. The second you get told that his father had a heart attack while he was away at university, we all knew he wasn't making it out of the film.
yeah, there was going to be something was going to happen at some point.
Exactly. But they did it really, really well.
Yeah,
Like the running joke's always been you can't be a superhero if both your parents are alive.
this is true.
Like that's like rule number one. If you want to be a superhero, you've got to sacrifice at least one of your parents. Um,
Um, I also love how they they kind of hit the cultural points as well. Like even though it was this fantasy city and there's like, but it hit the real like it. Everyone could relate to the fact of like there's this big corporation taking over, and it's the ones that are like the Mexicans and the lesser represented people are the ones getting screwed over
yeah,
and losing their areas where they live and housing prices going up and it's making it harder. Like it hit those relatable points, even though there was all this crazy shit going on at the same time.
it's exactly what the big plus from Black Panther was. When you let
Mm,
culture influence and direct culture, you will get a faithful adaptation that feels real and
yeah.
fairly represents people. They've done the same thing again. They've got a Mexican and Hispanic cast and crew and directors,
Mm-hmm.
and they've let them tell the story. And once again, it works.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science. Let the people who've experienced that life, that story, tell that story, and it'll be told properly.
And it's that thing again, which we keep saying we don't want world ending scenarios. Like, obviously, this was an origin. It wasn't probably, we weren't expecting like a world ending, but like they kept it very real, very cool,
Yeah,
like to the culture and at home, but still hinted at like, there are these mega corporations fucking the world up, and like there is a
yeah,
bigger thing going on, but like it kept it to his issues and where he was from,
100%.
and it paid out.
Um, I I'm I think it actually beat my expectations. I was
Yeah,
hoping
I
for it
would
to be
say
a fun film that got to show off a character that's really cool that not a lot of people know of, and it is
mm-hmm.
definitely done better than that.
Oh yeah, it's definitely. I was expecting it to be good, but like they just nailed it with everything, and it felt everything that I expected to do well. They did better and kind of went further than what I expected.
100%. The only thing that people need to remember is people were trying to trash the box office after 2 days. They were trying to say this film was a flop after 2 days.
Ah,
This film, compared to superhero films now, was on
mm-hmm.
a very small budget. The reported budget is 104 million.
Yep,
Um, it had no marketing because, unlike some other projects, this the strike started before they recorded any marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like other things where they could just rerun old interviews that had already been recorded
Yeah.
and just put the mark on it like this was recorded before the strike. They had nothing.
Yeah, the only
This was all
things.
fans.
Yeah, the only things that were out there were from months ago, and it was only James Gunn because he was the only one
Yeah,
who'd seen it.
exactly.
And it's like, yeah,
And I think it's crossed 50 million today. Go out and watch it.
yeah,
If you enjoyed early MCU because it was a character that you could care about, with side characters you could care about, with a story that was nice, and you wanted a bit of a comedy, not a comedy. You want to be able to laugh at moments, you want to be able to feel things at moments, you want some cool action. It is very, very good.
mm-hmm.
And I look forward to seeing all these characters again.
Oh yeah, same. Like, I think as well, like, if you were disappointed or like lost faith in DC by the end of the DCEU, like, this is the film that is, although it's not technically DCU because it's starting with Superman, this is a preview to the DCU, and watch it and it will get you excited for what James Gunn's going to do.
100%. I think it gives a very likely taste of what can be expected.
Yeah. And I'm excited. It very much obviously settled for a second one, and I'm excited to see that be under the DCU arc, and then for these characters to then hopefully be brought into that world as well.
The huge thing to remember is obviously we got teased at the end that Ted Cord isn't dead.
Mm-hmm.
We know the DCU is working on a Booster Gold show. Booster Gold and Ted Cord are best friends.
Yep.
It's all there. You've got Booster Gold, you've got Ted Cord mentoring Jaime as the Blue Beetle. That right there is a lovely little core of characters that can occasionally interact with your big heroes, but
Mm-hmm.
can also be a completely separate side shoot that people can just watch and adore because them three are built to have really nice and fun and great interactions.
Yeah. It's James Gunn. Like, I definitely think he saw this while he was in the process of figuring it out, and he's like, "Oh, they've left this for like Ted Cord to come. Okay, I'm doing Booster Gold. We're bringing this in. This is mine now. Screw any cameos you wanted to do. That's not happening. Like, this is all me. And do you know what? I'm so ready for the uncle to come back in the second one as like his guy in the chair with all the like cool gadgets, coming up with like weird weapons and stuff for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very excited for more of that.
So, would you like to discuss Rebels or Invincible first?
Oh, I think we'll start with Invincible.
Okay, cool.
As we did the
floor
character
is yours.
profile, and then we'll go into Rebels, and then we can go straight into Ahsoka.
Sounds good.
So yeah, Invincibles was trash. No, I'm joking.
Bullshit. I refuse to believe it was trash.
I binged it all in an afternoon, evening.
Is that because you left yourself not enough time, or is that because you started it and then just didn't want to stop it?
I actually had enough because I was watching it on Tuesday while I was between doing work and rearranging my room. So it's like I looked because I thought I'm gonna have to start thinking about watching this because obviously you'd messaged me to say you finished Rebels, and I couldn't remember how many episodes were. So I went on. I was like, it's only like 8 episodes. That's fine. I can do that. And I was like thinking I'd do it over a couple of days. Well, it was like, nope, next episode. I loved it. It was so good.
It is absolute peak animation.
Yeah, the animation's great. I love the style. The story is actually really fucking good.
It's fucking tight in it.
And I think because this might be like, I know you said a lot of people after The Boys and Invincible are a bit tired now of the evil Superman trope.
Yeah, there is a lot more to Omni-Man than evil Superman. I don't know all of it because obviously I've not read ahead, but he has, by the sounds of it, one of the best arcs in fiction over the course of it all.
Okay.
That people are really excited to come alive. It's just when it came out and no one knew anything more, they're like, another evil Superman?
Well, here's the thing. It's like, I haven't watched The Boys. I haven't, like, I know of, like, the evil Superman comic and, like, things where he's gone evil and stuff. Yeah. It's like, to me, this was, like, fresh. I knew what was coming, but it was, like, still, like, a fresh experience for the most part. And do you know what's funny? Like, partway through, I knew that there's like, I think I've seen like a still or some clip of like the fight fight scene like near the end. So I knew that, or like it might have been him kill, and I knew, okay, like there's gonna be the reveal of like why he fucking killed them.
Yeah.
And partway in, like I think it was like second or third episode, I'm like, his homeworld's gonna be a whole lie. It's not gonna, and I was like, it's all gonna be a lie, and he's not. It's like, it's just him, and like he killed everyone on his homeworld or something. Obviously, it wasn't quite to that extent, but it was pretty close.
Yeah.
The fucking fight, like kicking it off with him just destroying Earth's heroes. I was just like, oh, okay.
So, of fans of the comic, based on my recollection of the time, the knee-jerk reaction wasn't actually overly fond of that.
Because it was meant to be later.
In the comics, that was a bit of a slow burn.
Right.
So, you, once the big reveal actually happened, you got to go back and look at the last 50 issues and see all of the foreshadowing that no one had picked up on.
Yeah.
But because they're like, we've only got 10 episodes and we've got to sell this so that it gets another season.
Yeah.
We're going to change the order of things around a little bit.
I think it worked though, because it's like they hit you with that as the viewer. And obviously, like, it ends on that, and you're like, I'm not going to get to know why he's done this for ages now. Yeah. And I know,
they make the slow burn his reasoning.
Yes, and you're like trying to figure out, okay, why though? Like, why now did he do this?
Yeah.
And then piecing it together, like, okay, this obviously was the plan all along, or like there's something about where it came from isn't true, and figuring it out. Meanwhile, his son's figuring out his powers, which then makes him act even more weird. Yeah. And I really enjoyed like the dynamic of him slowly getting like people getting closer to finding out what he'd done, while also his son's Mark's trying to like figure out how to be a superhero. Plus, the world's now in chaos, so you've got other heroes trying to figure out what the fuck's going on.
Yeah,
it was a good build-up. Yeah,
yeah. The slipping of his mask that he's managed to hold up for 18 years as this perfect guy that everyone trusts. Like, even like the CIA style guy who's like paranoid about everyone trusts him.
Yeah.
And then now that Mark's got his powers and like this thing he thought he had loads of time for, because yeah, he hates Earth, but his life is easy, so he's comfortable, and now it's slipping, and it's like it's that slip into I don't know what's going on. He feels like he's losing control. So you start to see him snap at his wife, which he's never done before. Be really aggressive, and it shows like how well he'd kept that mask up when you know that he's from this race of murderous monsters.
Yeah.
That his wife, who is just a normal human, has no problem telling him to shut the fuck up and calm down. That clearly she's not scared of him.
Yeah.
To then know what he's capable of. It just shows how well he's kept that mask up. So to see that crumble, you are just there going, what has happened for this to all be the way it's been?
Like why is this happening now?
Yeah.
And I think it was like probably the way I took it is like the combination of like his son getting his powers. He's like, oh shit, I need to get him on my side before they come, and then it's like a situation of like he hasn't been able to explain to his son, and then he's against his son.
So I believe the rationale was the Viltrumites go out to a planet.
Yeah.
They operate there as a hero to get power and influence, and then crumble the world.
Yeah, essentially be like, work for us or die.
Exactly. And they're so powerful they only send one person to each planet.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was when Omni-Man arrived, he wasn't the only superpowered being.
Yeah.
Which is why he had a son. So that
there'd be two of them.
There'd be two of them.
Got you.
The problem is, based on my inference, because I have only seen like the first season and I've not read further than that. My inference is he's grown accustomed to Earth, and although he'll sit there and he'll pretend that he doesn't care about Deborah and that she's like a dog to him, that's like it's like a nature versus nurture. He was
Yeah.
grown up to be this killing machine who doesn't care for anything, but actually he's starting to realize, oh, I do actually care a little bit. Earth isn't that bad. It's nice being loved instead of hated.
Well, yeah, it's that, like, yes, he went there as what we see as a grown man. Like, he'd been through a lot and he went there, like, and then it's like, I do think you're right. It's kind of that thing of he has so much, like, what he knew, and he's lived this, like, life which started off as a pretend, having a wife and a kid, and it was like all for the cause, and he was hiding that, but it was all pretend. It's like that realization at the end of it where he's like, he was trying to be like, no, there's none of this matters, but actually it has seeped in there and it does matter to him. And I think that, like, having a son changed that as well for him.
I guess it's like the old like cliche of if you pretend to be something long enough, you become it.
Mm,
If you pretend to be a family man who loves and cares about everyone on earth and wants to protect them for long enough,
yep.
eventually some of that's going to seep in a little bit.
And you can't fully ignore it.
But we have to talk about the best bit, that final fight scene, the brutality of the subway scene, where he's just going through and massacring these people while Mark just watches.
Like, so that it's like, let's just
when
go
I say I was
through.
shook.
Let's go through the season, because I've watched, obviously binged it all in one. It's like,
yeah,
episode 1, he absolutely just brutally destroys Earth's heroes, and I was like, oh, okay, I knew the show was brutal and gory, and like I expected it, but I was like, okay, I know the tone now.
Yeah.
Then we kind of don't really get too much of that till it's the fucking alien guys that keep reoccurring, and then he goes through the portal, and you just see him absolutely fucking destroy a planet, and you're like, oh shit, this is what he could do to Earth if he wanted to. I now understand how fucking powerful he is.
Yeah.
And then he comes back like, no, yeah, it was Tuesday afternoon. And you're like, okay. He is like, not, when we're thinking, oh shit, he put a lot of punch into his son there, like that was too much. Actually still was pulling his punches at that point.
Yeah.
And then that final fight between him and his son, like the subway one was just brutal.
It's just when he takes essentially the gloves off and he shows the disregard for human life.
Yeah.
So he doesn't. Who cares if we take a building down with 10,000 people in it? Their lives mean nothing to me. And like that's his whole point throughout that entire argument. Is that all these people are going to be dead before you even realize it. We live for so long.
Yep.
Their lives don't matter. We're better than them.
Yep.
And like him just exercising like exactly what he's trying to paint as.
Yeah, he's telling Mark that, and is also essentially showing him that by just like, this is just like, this building is no different than just a pile of rocks as a mountain. Like, I don't care if I smash through it. And it's like, he's making Mark, like, Mark is helpless in it, and he's essentially just like, he throws him through a bit, like in the subway thing, like he's holding him there so he can see that he has the front and he has no way he can stop it. And it's like, no, accept, like, look what we can do. These people that, but they're thinking that that's going to go through to him, not realizing that, like, the age-old thing of like, he ain't full Viltrumite, he's half human. You misunderstood that he would have human like, he grew up on Earth. No shit, he gives a shit about Earth. Like, he don't know, like, thinking that he would be loyal. It's that, like, this is gonna sound funny, but it's the boomer mentality of, oh, you must be loyal to our home and to our country. And it's like, no, I don't give a shit. Yeah, I don't give a shit about where we came, where you came from. It's not the world I live in.
You never even taken me to see Grandpappy.
Exactly. I wasn't expecting Mr. Immortal to reappear at the end. Like, I'd completely forgot that they like collected his body and stuff.
Yeah.
And then him showing up.
He's alive.
Him showing up, I was like, oh shit. Now it's really like the gig is up for his dad.
It's masterful television. It is, you can't miss it. They did a really good job where they cut the episode, so obviously you always wanted to start the next one.
Mm-hmm.
But still, the story itself is just you can't put it down. It's so engaging. You want to know the next bit. You've got so many interesting characters that for superheroes, which are a lot of the time, it feels like there's 12 other superheroes who are identical.
Yeah.
They still give them their own
Oh yeah, they all
individual
felt.
essence.
Yeah.
Um,
I liked as well, like all the little side stories that happened.
the
Like
B stories are very strong.
like the A story is obviously like we're waiting for this reveal of his dad to like for him to get caught and found out, and I have to explain why and everything. That's the slow burn. Meanwhile, you've got Mark figuring out his powers, which also gives him like a bunch of side hit villains to fight and different things. And also then you get like Robot is actually some weird like thing in a tube, and he builds himself a body. Like he uses villains to make himself a clone, which I was like that whole time I was like, what the fuck is he up to? Like, why has he broke these guys out? And then it all like, oh shit, he just wants a body. Like, all those things going on at the same time. Obviously, the whole stuff with Atom Eve and how she like Rex, whatever.
Yeah, cheated on her with duplicate,
Yeah, and then
that
like,
whole situation.
and then
she
she's,
doesn't live with her family.
which we also need to get onto. I have watched the Atom Eve special as well.
Yeah, that was fucking awesome. The obviously it'll be more noticeable for you, but I felt
Mm.
like while I was watching it, the jump in visuals from clearly them being told you guys are gonna have a bit more control
Yeah.
to be creative here. It seems like a huge jump. It like to me, based on my memory of the season one, it seemed like it was a lot higher production.
Oh yeah, like it felt cleaner and the animation was done better. I think as well, because I'd gone straight into it, like it was so fresh of obviously meeting this Atom Eve character to then get to know her origin and like where she came from and all this. Also, her dad's a fucking dick.
Such a bell end.
Like in this series, I was like, oh, that dad's classic dickhead dad doesn't want like wants to control their kid. Okay, no, makes sense why she would eventually like just run away. No, he's a dick. Like real.
After the special came out, there was a lot of people tweeting somehow Nolan isn't the worst dad in the Invincible universe.
Yeah. Like I was like, I hate this guy more than Nolan.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed though, like her little getting to see that little origin and seeing what got her to the point in Invincible.
It puts her character into a lot more context. When you find out not long after discovering she had these powers, she had to find out about this entire other life that was ripped away from her as soon as she found out about it. Yeah. And also finding out that all bar a little bit of a mental block, she is God.
Yeah. That also, for me, I was like, oh, wait, shit, yeah, she can...
She is absolutely as close as you're going to get to God.
Obviously, like, I kind of did and didn't understand her powers fully in the show, because they don't really explain it, but like visually, like, okay, I get the idea. She can manipulate stuff and like make things out of nothing. Then when it's like explained, like she can like manipulate atoms fully. I even thought in the chat, I was like, oh, if she wanted to, she could just turn a human into something else. And then like, nah, there's a block there. She can't allow it. I'm like, makes sense. Otherwise, that would be a bit OP. And then it ends with her essentially breaking past that block, and you're like, oh, ooh. She's strong.
She's and very, very powerful.
Present day, she's just making vineyards and water and making people happy and building tree houses.
Yeah. And she's just slowly like pushing out what she can do. And I'm sure we're going to see more and more of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I knew you'd love it. I've been telling you since the first time I said you should watch this at some point. I knew you were going to love it. It doesn't miss. It's what so else? Good.
Oh, Adam the alien, who's voiced Alan, not Adam. I was like, when they were like, there's someone flying over it like Earth again, and then Mark goes to deal with him. I was thinking, this is like there's like some big villain that Omni-Man's fought before, and then it turns out it's like there's nice. He's just a audit guy.
Yeah. He just comes to make sure that your planetary defense is all in order. Ironically, in case the Viltrumite Empire comes for you.
Yeah. And then it's like, him reappearing at the end and getting told the whole like, you take a seat this time. Let me explain what the fuck's been going on.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for season 2.
Another brilliant Seth Rogen cameo.
Yes.
But yeah, no, that is a part of the comics as well. He instead of it being because Nolan is like just out of hospital or whatever, it's Nolan's away dealing with something. So they send Mark up to deal with it.
Right.
And they fight, and Alan realizes he's come to the wrong planet. He's supposed to be going to Urath, not Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the big battle, he comes back and he goes, "Oh shit, there's a Viltrumite here. Our intel says you guys need to be careful." And then he has to explain, "Oh yeah, that's my dad. He's gone. We don't know where he's gone. I'm half Viltrumite, but I'm chill."
Yeah.
All I will say, bearing in mind you obviously haven't nerded out on it as me as yet, i.e., reading ahead and stuff like that.
Yeah.
All I know that you'll want to know is at some point his suit changes to a blue and black theme instead of a blue and yellow theme.
Ooh.
Apparently, he is a fucking menace in that suit.
Oh. Okay.
Like, it's like I have no actual knowledge of it, but it's compared to like Spider-Man in the symbiote suit, kind of.
Oh.
Don't fuck with Mark in that suit.
Okay.
It's like I've seen it used in like like Twitter, so you do like 4 photos.
Yeah.
The thing that it's like, don't fuck with these versions of comic book characters.
Right.
And it's like that version of Spider-Man in the symbiote suit, that version of him and stuff like that.
Got you.
So that'll be interesting to see if we get that this season at all, or if that's like how this season ends. But
I'm very much looking forward now to season 2.
I cannot wait. It's been so long as well, because it's been like 2 years, maybe even 3 years.
For me, like what seems to keep happening, I get to go straight into.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what I've got to do with Rebels and Ahsoka.
True. You've literally walked straight into Ahsoka.
If I would have finished Rebels like 5 years ago, like the rest of you fuckers, and had to wait this long to get any kind of explanation, I would have been climbing the walls.
To be fair, for me, it was like Rebels was, I want to say like a couple years ago for me.
So it started in 2014. There was 4 seasons, so I assume it finished in 2018.
Yeah, see, it was already all out because I'd been working my way. It was probably a couple of years ago now, because I was working through all of Clone Wars because I hadn't seen it all, and I went straight from Clone Wars into Rebels.
Oh yeah.
And then obviously Bad Batch has been coming out and stuff. So I saw your messages towards you finishing Rebels of getting more and more confused.
Season really just the first 3 seasons are just fun space adventures causing trouble for the Empire. Mm-hmm. And then that last season just melts your mind at every opportunity.
It's the best Star Wars story.
It's
everything.
Chaos.
It's everything Star Wars needs.
I hope we get to see a Loth Wolf in Ahsoka at some point.
So we'll get into some of that when we're talking about Ahsoka. I have theories that we will see some again.
But I loved the first 3 seasons of Rebels. I loved the fun, let's go here, do this mission, cause a bit of chaos.
Mm-hmm.
You know me, that's right up my alley. Fuck the system, let's just try and find ways to mess with it.
As we're trying to train.
That last season, just pure, unadulterated chaos of, we said we were going to help Lothal, we're going to do it. Shit, we're trapped on Lothal. How are we going to do this? Thrawn is here. We're trapped here. We have no resources. It's like you've been building up all this time to them having more and more available. And then it gets to, okay, we're going to free Ezra's homeworld now. And then they're back down to, ironically, less than they had at the start.
Mm-hmm.
And they're back where they started, but everything's completely different.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a full circle.
And in a way, very classic Star Wars in the sense of like, although everything, like for the Rebels, no matter how many times it feels like things are getting better and going well, it then all goes wrong and they're back with nothing, and they're back being scrappy rebels dealing with the big bad.
put it this way: I obviously knew Kanan didn't make it out because I'm not
Yeah.
a dumb fuck.
I
have
was
the
trying so
internet.
hard not to just
Yeah.
like I try and divert you so you weren't 100%.
Yeah. I didn't actually realize at the time, but I'd seen the still of the bit where he dies.
With him holding the fire.
Yeah, with him like that. Because obviously that's the only time he has that haircut. And I'd seen that before I started watching Rebels.
So do you
And then
want
it
to?
started, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I'd forgotten. And then I see he's cut his hair, and I'm like, oh, shit.
Mm-hmm. That whole, because that all happened in like one episode.
Yeah.
Here is kind of like ascension, I want to call it, of him like finally accepting the Force again in a way.
Yeah.
Of like him cutting his hair and going through, you watching him go through all that, and then like the ending to where he's holding back the fire. And I saw your messages like, what the fuck happened with his vision? And it being like, that was him. Like the Force, the way I took it in the moment was like fully connected to the Force and fully like his full potential. He could have used the Force to bring back his eyesight. Like someone powerful enough can do that, and in that final moment, like the Force gave him the ability to have that.
That's what Vader was doing in his tank we see him in the original trilogy, isn't it? That entire time, over the entire course of the Empire, he would go into that essential back to tank and like meditate to try and heal his injury so that he could come out of the suit one day.
The only reason Vader can actually function is because Anakin's so powerful. He actually spends the 100% of the time he is spending some force on removing his pain.
Yeah.
So he can actually, like, the Force is in, like, can do some nut stuff, and like Kanan getting his vision back is that like perfect final moment for him.
Yeah.
It was really hard in Mandalorian when Grogu does the fire thing, and we were talking about it, and I was like, this is like the second time this has happened, but I can't explain why. Because you hadn't seen it then. And I was just like, Kanan and Grogu, like, I think are the only two people, there might be one other instance of it, but like are the only two people.
Ezra did it.
Ezra as well, then they're free.
Before him and Thrawn shoot off in hyperspace, right at the very end, he's doing the exact same thing.
Yes.
Because you get the same shot from the same angle.
Yes, you do.
Of and I was like, oh shit.
So those
also that level of cinematography for like the final season of Rebels for an animated show is outrageous from Dave Filoni.
Oh, he went next level on this whole final season. But yeah, so those three people are the only time that's happened. But such a sad moment though of Kanan going, you now understand like the whole where the fuck Ezra and Thrawn went.
Yeah. So Thrawn's back. We know Thrawn is back.
Or coming back.
Is Ezra back?
So
if they were both there together, if they got through, does that mean Thrawn's killed Ezra for Thrawn to get away? I'm confusion.
So this
is I assumed based on the bits of the Ahsoka trailer and having not seen all of Rebels, my assumption in my head was Kanan dies somehow.
Yep.
And I assumed that was going to be near the end of the show.
Yeah.
Or I assumed that was going to be the end of the season. Then I assumed Ahsoka was going to take over Ezra's training. And then I assumed Ezra was going to have a fracture with Ahsoka and he was going to scuttle off to meditate. And just like be like proper Jedi, just zen as fuck in a cave somewhere.
If only.
Then Ahsoka dies and doesn't die, and that doesn't get paid off for another 2 seasons, and we still don't know what the fuck she was doing in between.
Well,
and Sabine's being trained as a Jedi by the end, but is she Force sensitive?
So, okay, so the Ahsoka thing, when you say she died, are you on about her fight with Vader?
Yeah, so she died. She was assumed dead by everyone. Obviously, we saw her limp off. But I'm like, so why she faked her death? Obviously, I now know he went to the place in between places and he pulled her out before the explosion. Doesn't explain how Vader survived like the fucking psycho. And then he's put her back in and then she's limped out. And I
So that her limping away, people are presuming that's when she kind of she went on a journey and kind of re-established her connection with the Force again. Because when she appears at the end of Rebels, she's in like white robes.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, she spent that time reconnecting with the Force and like, because she'd finally kind of closed on or come to terms with what had happened with Anakin.
Oh yeah.
That chapter finally closed, so she needed time off doing her thing. The world between. We'll get into it in Ahsoka, but I don't think that's something that is not done with.
Yeah.
In terms of like,
That's
even though they destroyed the temple, and Dave Filoni said they destroyed the temple on purpose because he didn't want it to be a recurring thing that gets used.
yeah, but I mean, there's clearly multiple ways to get to it. Like,
Because it essentially is time travel, even though they don't want to
yeah,
call it time travel. It makes for some
it's
very
windows in the
interesting.
Force.
Yes.
But I also love the recurring theme of like all Jedi's have their thing. Ezra's thing being his affinity with animals,
Yeah.
I love so much.
Yeah.
It makes, although Jedi's aren't wizards, and like I would never call them wizards, it gives him more of like a wizardy vibe with this whole like understanding the Purgils and protecting them. When
Mhm.
Hera's like, no, fuck them things, he's like, just be nice to them and they'll be chill. And like the loaf wolves and the loaf cats, and obviously it comes full circle.
Bit like Grogu is. He's
Yeah,
very animal sensitive.
yeah.
But yeah, no, Ezra being like the whole thing with the Purgils and like him connecting to them was so fucking sick the first time when he like makes
I
that
now
Force
get why the
connection.
internet was in meltdown when Grogu saw the Purgils
Yes,
when they're in hyperspace.
because that's the first time we were like, holy shit, they're doing it. They're the things. Because we've sat here being like, they fucking left with Ezra. Like, they all blipped away, and we don't know where the fuck he went at what point in time or space.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. I think Ezra is alive, like you asked, but they're at a different point in time, not
Do you
just
think
somewhere.
there is a chance
Go on.
that he has been sent back in time to be an old ancient of the Jedi, or he's been pushed into the future and we might see him return with Rey's new Jedi Order, but he'll be as we left him and he's just been forced through time a little bit?
I think we'll get him back sooner than the Rey stuff. I think I don't know if it was forward or back. My guess was kind of always presumed forward, I think. It's
So I don't know why I
unknown.
like the idea of Ezra getting sent back in time and being an early Jedi, and the
I get
entire
you.
Jedi Order being built from him, and it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
The thing
He
is, it's
got
like
taught the ways of the Jedi, and then he's gone back and he started it all off again.
that causes some issues because then you're like, why would he not
Of
mention
course
that
it
Order
does.
66?
Everything does, though.
But also the thing with Sabine, is she Force sensitive? We don't know. The presumption is she has some connection
like,
with the Force.
I feel like Ahsoka, I mean, was kind of leaking in a little bit to Ahsoka here. But I feel like Ahsoka wouldn't have taken her on as a Padawan if she had no connection to the Force. Because at that point, she's just teaching a Mandalorian how to use a lightsaber. And teaching a Mandalorian to fight is like teaching a duck to swim. It's a waste of time. They already know how to do it.
Okay, so the assumption is she first took her on to teach her because she had the dark saber. So she was like, and she'd played with, like, she'd used it, and it's kind of this thing of like, there is a good use, like we've seen with Mando. Mandalorians can fight, but then don't necessarily know how to use the dark saber. And it's like the dark saber being in play at that time. There is good reason for Ahsoka to like what to train her, even if she doesn't necessarily have a connection to Force. Maybe there is something little there that Ahsoka knows. Also, it's just like good that would be a Mandalorian that can wield a lightsaber well. Would probably Ahsoka's probably thinking like if she ends up with the dark saber. I think trying not to leak too much into the show. I think there might be something there, but obviously it's such a. We're learning now. Obviously, Ahsoka became more of a grey Jedi. It's just like I imagine that
Grey
caused some
Jedi's don't exist in canon. Don't say that. Jesus Christ, you're gonna get us lynched.
I don't give a shit. They're like whether they do or don't. Dave Filoni is making them real.
She is not a Jedi Order Jedi, but she follows the way of the Jedi as best she can.
She is as
guidance.
much the. I mean, it goes to like the father, son, and daughter beings.
Yeah.
Where there is balance.
Do you reckon we get them in live action?
I don't think they necessarily come back. I think
that was when I finally watched Clone Wars. That was one of them arcs that I thought was really cool, even though it was really weird. So I was like, oh, I really like that mystical stuff. That was fucking awesome. And I was like, cool, that's that done with. That was all kind of in Anakin's head, and that was his internal fight, and that was how Dave Filoni decided to show us his internal fight.
No, I think they are like
and
that.
And then it gets to the temple when I'm already losing my mind because Kanan's dead, shit's going on, and then I see it, I'm like, the fuck are you doing here?
Yeah, and I think that plus the Loth Wolves, like, there's obviously a lot more mysticism now being like played into the Star Wars stuff, and they're leaning into it, which I'm loving. I'm trying to think what else with Rebels. Trying not to leak into Ahsoka here. That's like important or to talk about.
I know.
Well,
one thing we need to talk about in Rebels.
Chopper.
Chopper.
Do you now understand why we call him a war criminal?
He is so good. I love him so much. One of my favorite episodes of all of Rebels was the episode where they save the Imperial droid, and then to become like R2D2 and C3PO if they're a bit more physically aggressive.
Yeah.
Like R2 and C3PO have like a passive aggressiveness to each other.
Yeah.
Chopper and A2 or whatever he was. They're like more physically aggressive with each other.
Yeah, Chopper was jealous.
Hilarious.
Chopper's like, no, I'm the only droid here.
Yeah. It's really funny though, because like I don't know if like this is just commonly accepted, but obviously Chopper is Hera's droid. It seems like he hates everyone. He seems like the bad dog that growls and bares its teeth at everyone, but then its owner comes through the door and its ears drop and its tail's wagging. And it's like, hello. And it's like Hera is the only person Chopper cares about. Everyone else he'll put up with.
Yeah, no, Chopper is like linked with her. It's like exactly like that. He doesn't give a shit whether you're Rebel, Imperial, whatever. Like, he's like, if you're not in the Ghost crew, you're evil. I hate you.
Yeah, 100%.
The fact as well that the thing that makes Chopper so much better and more anime is like, one, it's voiced by Dave Filoni.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's him reading lines and then they distort it.
I love that
Which,
so much.
in the show, is why we can sort of like feel like we understand what Chopper's saying.
At times it felt like Chopper was saying actual words, which does make more sense.
Even kind of, they've lent into being a bit more clear in Ahsoka, which we'll get into. Also, Chopper is, I think, the only droid where his head like wobbles.
Yeah.
So he gets more
the arms coming out of his head to give him like when you're just on Chopper's head.
Yeah.
And his arms are out. It's a little person that has so much expression. It
gives it so much more expression. And everyone loves him. You realize the like now though the reason he's a war criminal. One, because like the droid that Imperial droid he just knocks out the ship and he's like, oops, just murdering droids. Yeah. Also. The thing at the end where he like makes the ship full of people just crash and explode, and he's like, there's many other ways Chopper could have dealt with that situation, but no, he chose to make ships crash into each other and kill everybody, and he's like, see you later.
The first time I was like fell in love with Chopper was in season 1, very early. It's when Zeb, like when there was more like on the ship antics. And you had Zeb and Ezra butting heads because obviously they share a room.
Yes.
And Chopper pulls the bolts out.
Yes.
And
he's instigating stuff.
And them two start fighting each other. They've just got him waving the bolts in the air.
He's just a little shit. Like, he just instigates
100%.
stuff, and he doesn't
then
care
runs
for
away
anybody.
and hides behind Hera.
Yeah, and he gets away with it, and it's great. This is why everybody loves Chopper. This is why
He's the little shit brother.
I would love a world where, like, he is winding up R2.
Yeah.
Because
100%.
R2's also can be a little shit at times.
Yeah.
And it's like,
but he was doing it in wartime.
I imagine, like, Chopper winding up R2, and then you just got R2 screaming at him. It'd be
or
chaos.
Even better, them two playing like a droid game of what's the game where you like where you and your mate scream something louder and louder?
Oh,
Bogies.
yeah.
Where them two play like prank bogey. So like Chopper goes and like undoes a bolt, and then R2 has to one up him, and they keep one, and then before you know, a ship just fucking crashes into a planet.
That actually would be such a great little animated short.
That'd be a really good short. You're welcome, Dave Filoni, 10%. But yeah, no, Rebels was great. I'm glad I watched it.
Do you now understand how Zeb got to where he is in Mando?
100%.
Like, everyone kind of like got a good, well, in my opinion, everyone got the ending in the right places.
Yeah. Also, what Rebels did, which I was hoping it would do, but I wasn't guaranteed it would do, is obviously everyone's heard the Freddie Prinze Jr. rant on that podcast about Star Wars fans. Understanding Kanan's character and like it lends a lot more honesty to what he was probably saying, because when he's getting them scripts towards the end of season 4 about Kanan's arc, he needs to understand what Kanan knows, even if we don't know it, so that he can do it properly. So that's why he's got that information. So I 100% believe that man knows about as much as Star Wars, and the people who are above him are maybe Sam Witwer, Dave Filoni, and George Lucas himself, and that's probably about it.
That's what you got to remember. Like, he spent so much time with Dave Filoni, because Dave Filoni also voicing Chopper. Like, he would, like, there was so much time spent together, like, in information shared and nerding out, and like Dave Filoni was constantly going to George Lucas during that period, and like the whole like world between was built by Dave Filoni and his talks with George Lucas on this like idea and built it into actually something that existed. Man knows his shit. And it's like, if anyone says like, oh no, he's just talking from his own, it's like, no, fuck off. He knows more than anybody.
Do you know what it really is? And I know this is real life, so like it's not like just a perfect story arc. But the original universities were based on philosophy. So you had like Socrates was taught by or taught Aristotle, and everyone had like one or two students, and then you built up.
Yeah.
You got George Lucas, and then it's Dave Filoni. I want to be next. Let me in. Let me in.
Well, here's the thing.
Show me the sacred texts.
Dave Filoni is getting his like collection of directors that he's essentially teaching them the ways.
Yeah.
It's Rebels was like
phenomenal.
It was everything that was great about Clone Wars and how Clone Wars finished, and it's like,
and it just slowly pivots into this mystical mad world. And here's the thing: what I've been seeing, I guess we can move on to Ahsoka now. What I've been seeing is a lot of people going, "Oh, if you like Andor, you won't like Ahsoka, and if you like Ahsoka, you probably didn't like Andor." And I'm sat here after the first 2 episodes going, "I loved Andor because it hit the political stuff of Star Wars that I love so much." I also love Ahsoka because it is giving me that mystical shit that I also fucking love. That is
Star Wars.
Yeah. There are 2 parts of Star Wars mainly. You've got the political stuff and you've got the mystical stuff. And it is absolutely fine if you prefer one over the other. I happen to fucking adore both.
Oh yeah, I don't think
so far it's not missing.
I don't think you can only like one. We're proof of that. I mean, Andor is, I feel like Andor, for people that aren't heavy into Star Wars or fantasy or sci-fi, like Andor hits better because it's like, it's just more relatable. It's not too out there. It's just like a sci-fi thing. Ahsoka is like full-on Star Wars through and through. And it's like, if you're not into Star Wars and all the Jedi shit and all the mysticism, like, you aren't gonna like Ahsoka. And Ahsoka, even more so than anything before, is like really leaning into the mysticism shit. I'm so into it.
100%. Yeah, I completely agree. With Andor, what you had was you had a story being told of a tyrannical government, a tyrannical enemy, whatever. People can put a real world face to that. They
Yep.
can understand that in their own terms. No one can understand here is a magic map that was hidden in a temple that's going to help you find your friend who was
It was made
trapped
by
with an army guy.
witches.
Yeah, no one can relate that to their personal life. It's
Yeah.
like if you
You've got to
can,
be
you need medicating.
you've got to be into Star Wars to really, and like this is also so getting into this now, Ahsoka. I'm trying to think where episode one opened
Ep-
up with her.
Episode 1 started with the Phantom Menace done evil. It was the Jedi want to board the ship to look at the prisoner,
Yes.
and then it was Balin and his apprentice Shin.
No. Oh, I had this.
Balin.
It's. Oh my
Yeah,
brain.
Shin Haiti.
Yes, sorry, yeah. I'm thinking last name, the Haiti part,
Yeah.
because it's, if I remember, it's Balin's skull in
Yeah.
Shin Haiti. Now this is going
Yeah.
back to the wolves, okay, and the
Okay.
theory I've seen and what I'm. Skull and Haiti are the two wolves out of Norse mythology.
Oh, are they?
Yes.
And
So
he's really dark in clothing, and she's light with white hair, like
mhm.
the dark wolf and the light wolf on the painting.
He also
this
was,
show's gonna continue to fuck with my head.
yeah, and also you've got to think it's all leading to this like force balance, right? Because was Jedi, survived the Order 66, escaped, has turned not Sith, something in between. We know this
Yeah.
because we had that discussion about it way back when Dave Filoni said,
Yeah.
yes, it's slightly orange lightsaber. She is apprentice, not come from Jedi, probably come more from Sith sided, and it's like, okay, there's some weird force balance shit going on there. That he doesn't at any point say he is Sith, like he says they are not Jedi.
Yeah.
So they are some weird in between. Bit like the wolves, they aren't like associated to one side.
Yeah, the wolves didn't care about if it was the Empire or whatever. They just wanted to protect Lothal.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So we also, I really like, so they did all that and they free the prisoner who we all recognize from Mandalorian when Ahsoka fights her.
Ah, yes, I hadn't put that together, but yes.
Yes, it's the same
that
person.
was not in my head at all.
Ah.
Okay, so when we saw her in Mandalorian, that was the person she was arresting.
That's who Ahsoka fought.
Okay, cool.
And obviously got the Beskar spear off her or whatever.
Yeah.
She is I forgot the planet.
She's
now.
a Night Sister. Dathomir.
Yeah, she's a Night Dathomir. That's it. Thank you. Yeah, she's a Night Sister. Which I instantly, when they mentioned that, I was like, okay, I know where this is going. We're getting into some weird force magic shit.
Even the Jedi Order, when the Jedi Order was still around, didn't fully understand what the Night Sisters knew.
Yeah, and
they called them witches, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, and they didn't
could
fuck
make
with
stuff
them.
levitate with their mind. Like, come on.
I mean, the shit they did to our boy Darth.
Yeah.
Like, they did some weird shit to bring him back and give him legs. So
yeah. Do not fuck with the Night Sisters.
And not much is known about them. So it's like there's freedom there for them to be like, Dave Filoni could do what the fuck he wants. Then we get like Ahsoka she's going for help.
We get her Indiana Jones scene where she goes to find the map.
Yes. There's a lot of insinuation of threes in this.
Yes. The 3 is the Star Wars magic number, which is ironic, bearing in mind the rule of 2 was always seen as like the only real number in Star Wars. Now you've got the father, the daughter, and the son. You've got the 3, and each one got turned 3 times on 3 different sides when Sabine opened the map.
It's like there's 3 statues on the outside, then she goes down, there's 3 more that look like Night Sisters. She does all that, she gets this like orb map. of course, then we get to see Hera. She meets up with Hera. Everything gets explained that the prisoner got free. You should go and ask Sabine. She can probably help with that. Something to note, we are now seeing Ahsoka in grey robes, not white robes.
Yes.
Something that I've seen a bit of a theory on is Dave Filoni talked a lot about, or has in the past talked a lot about how much love he has for Gandalf. And Gandalf wasn't a completed teacher when he was Gandalf the Grey. He was still learning, and then he became Gandalf the White. This almost feels like he's doing the reverse. Ahsoka thought she finally got to a point where she's known everything. Then she's realized she doesn't, and she has to be in between. She went back to being a grey Jedi, and now she's wearing grey robes.
See, I have a slightly different take on that.
Okay.
The bit we saw at the end of Rebels, where she collects Sabine.
Yeah.
I think that's actually how Ahsoka's going to end. And that's why she's in white robes at the end of Rebels, because she's now fully become the teacher.
Yeah, but this
and
is
she's
after.
ingrained. No. So that last scene in Rebels, we know there's a time jump there.
Right.
I'm saying that very last scene is how Ahsoka's going to end.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to find out that little bit of time leading up to that. And that's why she's in white at the end of Rebels.
Possibly.
Because her and Sabine have mended their relationship and they are now master and apprentice.
Possibly.
Properly.
But I think there's something going on there.
Yeah,
with
there's
like,
definitely something to that.
It basically
does nothing by accident.
It basically feels like Dave Filoni's being like, she's a grey Jedi, without just spelling it out that she's a grey Jedi, because
Dave
he knows.
Filoni seems like the kind of guy who likes a grey Jedi.
He's shown many times he loves the stuff from Star Wars Legends, which is not canon anymore, but like he keeps pulling things like Thrawn. Would not surprise me if this series with the slightly orange lightsabers, and he plays in grey Jedis, and he brings in this whole thing about like the whole bleeding a lightsaber and everything gets made canon. I would love.
It's either that, or he's going to use this once and all show. No matter how in between someone might seem, they are always one or the other. So the entire show might be about going, yeah, they could be in between, but look, when it matters, you are one or the other.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. At the end of the second episode trailers, people have noticed something. Or the credits at the end of the second episode. Sam Withers has a voice credit.
I'm guessing he was one of the weird wispy voices.
Either that, or some people think he might be the Inquisitor Marok. Because, remember, people got very excited in the trailer that Marok was using a move similar to Starkiller. And everyone was like, oh my god, Marok's going to be Starkiller, live action Starkiller. And everyone went, no, that would be dumb, Starkiller's too OP. What if that was actually just teasing that Sam Withers is going to be playing Marok? Not that Marok is Starkiller, just Sam Withers is playing Marok. And that's why that move is the same, because Sam Withers was obviously...
That would be cool. Saying about this, the Inquisitor, the most badass move I think ever in Star Wars. I'm saying it now. Ahsoka no-look dodging the boomerang, like nonchalant. Like that was... Because everyone knew that got thrown. Okay, that's coming back at some point. She's probably going to do some like flip over the top of it or something. No, she just stood there and just goes, psych. You fought.
There is only one valid complaint I've seen about Ahsoka, which is valid.
Okay.
The lightsabers are not the best lightsabers have been. They don't have the after effect glow. They're very, very tubey. There's not enough light bleeding away from them. And it does, while it's not a huge thing, I don't think it's as big a deal as some people are making it out to be. It does take a little bit away from it. And I miss it.
Do you know why I think that's happened?
Go on.
So you've got it, like, this is just, they could have probably done something to fix this, but probably they used tube lights in general. With coloured light, that will be picked up a lot better on the camera of a bleed and motion blur because
Yeah.
it'll be so different and contrasting. The issue you've got with a white lightsaber is on set, there is big, huge white lights lighting the scene. Getting that like blur to show is going to be really hard without over forcing it through VFX, and then maybe it looks wrong. That's my
Yeah.
only thought of to like why it's not
yeah.
come across.
And it's not the end of the world. I'm just saying, if people who really want to be angry, that is a
Yeah.
valid thing for them to go, that's not ideal. But it's not a deal breaker at all because the show's good enough so far.
I will say, on the subject of like Ahsoka and Eliza, some of the moves she's doing now are so sick. Like some of the coolest moves we've seen from a Jedi, even though she's not technically a Jedi, but you know what I mean. Like the whole when she cut the floor in a circle without her even holding them, using the Force, we got to see that again. The whole like being able to force push while she's holding the lightsaber still, which actually hasn't happened a lot. Very clear to make it like she does the hand, like the way she holds it and points her finger is just how they animated it in Clone Wars.
Yeah.
They've made sure that's transferred across. You're like, okay, this is Ahsoka. Like,
Yeah.
she's just a badass.
It's very interesting to me though, because obviously we know she's gone off and spent some time with Luke in between.
Yeah.
I really like the idea that she seems so much more competent now because her and Luke have learnt from each other. Because
Yeah.
obviously the whole idea is Luke gets the Force in a visceral way. I feel like, yes, she taught him a lot about the Jedi Order because she was there for it.
Yeah.
And in return, he helped her learn the last few bits she needed.
Oh yeah,
'Cause
I imagine.
she's nowhere near as hot-headed as she was when she was a teenager. She's
Well, yeah,
mellowed.
I definitely think it's like that time she spent with Luke. Like you say, they've both shared things. Also, you've got to imagine like she'll have shared what Luke's father, like what Anakin was like to Luke, and like told him stuff that no one else can tell him about what Anakin was like before he became Darth Vader. And like
Exactly.
he being so competent in the Force, like you say, they'll have just practiced and trained and talked and like both learned from each other. And I think you're right. She, from the things that happen in Rebels and her finally accepting what happened to Anakin and then taking the weight of that burden that she blames herself that because she left, that's why he turned to the dark side. She's accepted that. She's accepted that the Jedi way is not the way. But then she's also like improved in her abilities and whatnot. Obviously, the first episode ends with Sabine trying to fighting the robots, and then the little
and Sin Haiti.
Yeah, and then we all knew she was going to lose. I think that's safe to assume.
I don't think anyone expected her to get fucking stabbed through the abdomen, though.
No, and I was like, no way they've just killed off Sabine. Like, no way we've been waiting this whole time.
Imagine.
I was like, if they've just killed Sabine off in episode 1,
there's definitely a reason they did a dual episode drop. They decided they were going to stab Sabine at the end of the first episode, and they were like, if we make them wait a week,
they're gonna
people are going to get death threats.
Yeah, there's going to be anger.
They know what Star Wars fandom is like.
I think that, and also there was a little slow to get going at first, and I think
Andor proved it's necessary. If you need 2 episodes to get going, take the 2 episodes.
Yeah,
who cares?
They've realized from Andor it worked really well for setting the pace and building the pace up. So why not do it for this? Obviously it ends with that, but they kind of like hint that she's not out because she's like still. It's not like she's just collapsed and she's dead. There was so many little things, Easter eggs in the tower as well. Yeah. So there was. Did you notice the scout trooper helmets?
Yes.
Because they wore those when they infiltrated the ship, and many times she had like crossed out stormtrooper helmets. How many times she's killed stormtroopers? There was like all the Lothcats drawn, stacks of rocks, which people are going, is that her referencing her training of like Luke when he had to stack rocks? There's so many little details with that I really loved. Her armor, the way her armor's painted, is exactly like how it ended looking at the end of Rebels. Obviously, the whole her cutting her hair mirrors exactly how Kanan cut his hair with a
Yeah.
knife, but also the point of, she said in the past in Rebels that, oh, she has her hair short because her head gets hot in the helmet.
Yeah.
It's like she's finally putting the armor back on. Like, she does that, and that's getting into like episode 2 now, which episode 2 was also great. We get more,
Yeah.
we get Chopper properly.
Yeah. I love the little back and forth when they're chasing the ship of him like, where'd you put my thing? Mum, where is my thing, Mum? And she's just like, have you
Someone's
checked
messed with my
underneath?
stuff. Chopper being like,
Yeah.
who the fuck has touched my stuff? And Harry's like, no one's touched it. Look properly. And he's like, it's not here. And then is it under the
So funny.
backup battery? And it's like, or what does he say? He's like, shoot. And she goes, we can't blow up the ship. And he definitely says, why not though? Like, why not? Why can't we blow up the ship? Oh yeah, she says
one good reason.
No, he's like, just shoot the ship. And she's like, no, it'll crash down into the port. And he's like, that's a bad thing. Like, which, to be fair, we just learned at that point that there was many imperialists down in that port city. Like, is it a bad thing if the ship crashes down there?
It's also when they like tag the ship and they're like celebrating they've tagged it.
And then he's like
flexing with his arm. Brilliant.
It's so good. Like, they've
but it's
really
also
brought
that they've
Chopper
given
to
the head the tilt as well, so it doesn't just spin. And I understand people were probably concerned about getting Chopper right in live action because he moves like no other droid because he was animated. But the fact that they've given his head the tilt as well as the arms.
Oh, they've nailed Chopper and like slightly made it easier to understand what he's saying is obviously on purpose.
Yeah.
The banter between him and her, like, I think that's a tease of what this is. We're gonna get Chopper full and full.
We need at least one episode of Chopper and someone being stranded somewhere and just bickering while trying to get it done the entire time.
I really want to see Chopper get, you know how in Rebels, like, he had different paint jobs for different things. I want to see that happen. I want to see him infiltrate something.
He's finally happy because he's not been painted for years. And Sabine just comes out of the woodwork with a can of fucking spray. And she's like, it's time, buddy.
But like, the Hera was amazing. We got more of her in that second episode. Obviously, we got the reveal that like the port guy is like, oh, I answer to my investors. And everyone's like, oh, it makes sense, corporations. And then when you think after later, it's like, well, yeah, of course his investors are evil people that have their, like, but I don't think
anyone who has enough money to invest in stuff that isn't a little bit evil.
I love that the C3 unit dossed him in, though. He was like, there's none of those droids here. And she's like, the droid's like, I dealt with one yesterday.
Yeah.
He's like, and you see everyone suddenly go on edge and you're like, oh, wait, shit, the whole room is not good.
Are they in the room with us? Yes.
Obviously then all that goes down and we have the little chase and then we see Ahsoka fights the Inquisitor.
I do wonder if he's actually an Inquisitor or if it's just someone who's stolen Inquisitor's lightsaber.
So everyone is presuming he is an Inquisitor. We don't know for sure. He has a very similar armor design to the fourth brother, I think it is what they're called.
I get that, but I mean, if he's stolen their lightsaber, it's just as possible that he stumbled across the fourth Inquisitor dead and
possibly
like taken the armor and modified it.
Yeah, it's possible.
So it'll be curious. I think there's definitely a fair bit of story there.
Yeah, I think it would make sense for if you think like it's a Night Sister, it's an ex-Jedi and his new apprentice. Like, it would make sense to have like a long-lost Inquisitor, sort of like presumed dead, is actually still alive. Like, I think it makes sense that he would be rocking around with them. So yeah, interesting to see how that. Obviously, then we see them figure out, like, they have the opened thing and they go to some unknown planet where there's like this weird, almost Stonehenge-esque sort of structure.
Proper ancient technology designed for reading a map like this.
Yeah. And then she does her green witchy magic. Made sure to make sure it was all green and flame-esque, like from Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows like this map and this pathway which is I forget does he call it the Purgle Path?
No, he called it something else. And he was like, "That was
An old Jedi
children's tale."
Yeah, a Jedi
Um,
order. We got told that as kids or whatever,
and
it's
then
like,
in proper Night Sister fashion, she was like, "Everything's based in truth."
yeah, magic. I also love that the episode was called Toil and Trouble.
Yeah,
Which is like a
yeah,
reference to the witches from Macbeth, is it? I
yeah.
think.
Oh
Which
yeah.
when the title
Dave
came up for that,
Filoni has no problem.
when the title came up, I was like, very witchy-esque episode coming, and I wasn't wrong. And then we also get the thing of like that people have picked up on it. Usually, whenever scientists have mentioned this stuff, they say space and time. That's always the order it's said. She says time and space, which people have picked up on. Is like, obviously we're not like, that's not how it's in everyday life said. And people are like, okay, this is very time focused. Like, this is clearly a pathway that goes through time. Where we don't know. She's hearing the voice of Thrawn. And they're obviously building this structure to get there. Because
Rescue it. My real question is, why would a Night Sister want to save Thrawn?
power, I would imagine.
Yeah,
Thrawn,
because Thrawn's not exactly known for sharing power, though.
no, but you've got to think she's a Night Sister that survived through everything and probably is alone. So she's not like she has the power of the Night
True,
Sisters.
Dathomir did get absolutely bent
Yeah.
over.
So Thrawn was very interested in other cultures.
True,
Probably
he probably respects the culture.
Probably had a lot of interest in Dathomir and Night Sisters and all that. Probably met her before, and she's made something there, and she thinks him coming back maybe will shift the power and give her more freedom to have like control over things. Maybe you try and use him as a puppet.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how the show plays out. I'm looking forward to more Rebel-esque fun.
Yeah.
And I really, really, really enjoyed David Tennant.
Yes.
Been really good.
I saw someone call him Doctor Who-Wang on Twitter, which I'm all for. I love that they brought him back as if Ahsoka kind of like hunted him down after Order 66 and was like, "Oh, I have you." Like, although he was just built lightsabers, actually he has a expansive knowledge because of that. Of like,
he worked for the Jedi Order for thousands of years. You pick up stuff. Yeah, his specialty is lightsabers, but he gets.
But also just like the knowledge of, oh, this lightsaber, I know who that person is.
Yeah,
and
exactly. And also building off that relationship as well to try and lean Ahsoka towards working with Sabine and just kind of nudge in the right direction.
The ego check he gives Sabine, which was actually a really great little moment, gives me similar C-3PO energy of like worried about his own mortality, but then very intelligent.
Yeah. I'm really enjoying it. The voice acting's really good. It works. It's a character that I didn't know I wanted back, but I'm glad it's back.
Exactly. But overall, this show has a great start.
Yeah, it's not given us too much to the point where we can already see where it's going 100%, but it's giving us enough to go, interesting.
There's
curious.
We know Ahsoka from the trailer. We know at some point she fights Balin.
Yes.
From the trailer,
and that looked like it was in the Places Between Places, didn't it?
So this is the thing. In the trailer, I was like, that very much looks like the Place Between, because it was like all these weird like circular lines and
really dark, and then just random circle lines. Yeah.
After that weird like Stonehenge place where it appears around them, I'm like, could it just be that? And she fights them at that place for the map or something. Possibly, like, is that where
we're already kind of past that point because they've opened the map and they know where they're going now.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean they don't need to
But
recheck it.
but also maybe the similar styles is because them little places are other ways to get into the place between
Yeah.
places. And that's why
Possibly.
they're used for opening them maps, which show how to get somewhere potentially through time and space.
Potentially. So I think there's a chance we get that like the nowhere in between.
Yeah. The
I
interesting
also
thing is also
Go on.
the ship they were building to go get Thrawn
Hmm.
has multiple hyperdrives.
So that's something. It's got 9 hyperdrives, which once again is a multiplication of 3. We're back to the number 3. Way more than any of the larger ships would even need.
Yeah.
Which obviously makes you go, okay, well, if they're trying to copy a Purgle and jump through time and space, then
Well, that was another thing to notice. When the thing was spinning up and we were getting the light show, Purgles were being used as like
yes,
the border.
they were shown as like a little illustration.
So it fully shows that the Night Sisters understood that Purgles
They
had
have
the ability to travel through hyperspace.
Yeah,
and they had a knowledge of how they work.
The Night Sisters have a wider knowledge of some of the more mystical sides of the Force that the Jedi have kind of ignored over the years or not paid too much attention to. Though, yeah, there was a lot of things, and a lot of the ways that like it's drawn out with that star map is very similar to like the place in between. I think it's going to be interesting because I'm not sure. I feel like Balin's playing a different hand. He's not fully shown what he wants out of all of this.
Yeah, he's coming across very mercenary, which is what they think he is, but it seems like to us that no, he has
his own
an
agenda.
ulterior motive that's not credits.
Yeah, which will be interesting to see. I'm excited to see Ahsoka and Sabine become Master Padawan again. This is going to be a fun little journey.
I'm looking forward to the eventual Ahsoka Sabine versus Haiti and Balin.
Yes.
That's going to be a top lightsaber scene. Also, I saw on Twitter today that Sabine Haiti fight is the first time we've seen 2 women lock lightsabers in the Star Wars universe.
Oh shit. Okay,
that's in live action.
Cool. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Didn't know.
So, dub.
But yeah, very excited for Ahsoka and where this is going to go, and very excited for the Thrawn return, and hopefully an Ezra return.
Yeah, I'm interested. I getting towards the end of Rebels, I was like, okay, cool. So it's going to be a continuation, but it'll be a brand new story. And then them last 4 episodes of Rebels were just filling me with questions. I was like, oh shit, no, Ahsoka's going to answer a lot of questions.
Do you know what I'm waiting for? Just the little hint of cloning is happening. That Dave Filoni just slips under the rug, just like, oh yeah, don't forget this is going on to answer the question that happened in the prequel.
Man is desperately trying to fix that one line of dialogue. Yeah. Palpatine returns somehow.
He'll do it.
He's going to find a way to fix it.
I believe.
Some nerdy news?
Yes, I think we should get into the news.
So I'm going to start with the thing that I've sent you during recording.
Yes, I've seen.
A table has been released of how much it would cost different studios to meet the WGA's demands versus their annual revenue, and then as a cost percentage of their revenue.
Okay.
So, for Disney to meet their demands, it would cost them $72 million a year.
Seems hefty.
Their annual revenue is $82 billion a year, making the burden on Disney 0.088%.
But Disney's struggling so much, Connor.
Yeah. For Netflix to meet the demands, it would require 0.206% of their revenue.
But they got all those new accounts.
0.2%. The crazy thing is, I'm looking at this list. 0.2% is the highest it will cost to anyone.
And I'm glad it's Netflix.
Yeah. Warner Bros. Discovery. 0.1%. Paramount 0.14%. NBC Universal 0.027%. Amazon 0.006%. Amazon should be championing for this to happen because it's going to hurt them less than anyone else, and they can use it to get more
Yep.
of a foothold in the content world.
It's pocket change for Bezos, that.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. Sony 0.027%. And then Apple 0.004%.
Also, another person I'm surprised they aren't chomping at the bit.
They're not even going to notice it. They're about to sell a whole bunch of new iPhones that will cover.
They're about to sell
cost.
a bunch of Apple Vision Pros that will cover it now. Yeah, it's wild when put in that context of like
the absolute highest as a percentage of their revenue it will cost any single one of them is 0.26%. If your margins are so razor thin that you can't afford 0.2% of your revenue to go towards a pay increase for the people making your content, you shouldn't exist.
The fact that it's wild when you look at some of the revenues that some of these ones are getting. Like, and then it's like the percentage and put in that context of what the actors and writers and everyone's asking for. It's like, how is this even a question?
Yeah, it's outrageous, and I just whether you like all the stuff their studios are producing, whether you think the writers aren't producing high enough quality at the minute because you're not happy with certain shows, forcing these people to not be able to live is not the way to get better content.
And do you want to know why the economies around the world are shit in the bed? Because big corporations care more about their profits and not putting that money back in. Yes. All they have to do is put like Disney, 0.08% back into the business. Like, I'm sorry, no fucking shareholder is even going to notice that money not. No. Like they're like
it's and also, let's be honest, if you're one of the first companies to jump on this bandwagon, if you're Amazon, yeah, and you go, we'll agree to that, even if they don't, and then you get them to agree to let you resume working.
Yeah.
Like they've done with smaller studios who've agreed. Yeah, smaller studios who it will have been more than them tiny percentages, by the way. And then Amazon gets to keep working on all their shows and putting them out. They get a market advantage because they're the ones bringing out new stuff that's high quality. But they can also absolutely get an agreement with the WGA to put in all their adverts, WGA partner or whatever, so that everyone who wants to be like an ethical consumer can go, Amazon have worked with them.
Here's the thing as well, like, it's a smart business play to get in first because, let's be real, the public perception we all still will hate them, they're corporations, but we're going to be like, okay, at least Amazon got on first, good for them. Also, there's a lot of writers that will have shows they've been pitching to these studios, trying to sell them, but haven't come to any deals yet. There's probably the next big show sitting amongst them that Netflix or anybody, whoever goes first and gets the book, like things moving again, all those writers that have shows they want to pitch are going to go, hi, Amazon, we have a show, and Amazon's going to have pickings because no one else can like see them yet.
And if they pick the right stuff, they can get the next 10 smash hits all to themselves before anyone's even had a chance to try and outbid.
So it's like, it's wild to me. I mean, Apple, I'm not surprised they don't give a shit. Like, Apple TV is such a small part of their business, they're probably not paying enough attention to this. But the likes of like Amazon, who have Prime has been on, like, if you think about it, Prime has definitely been on the back. It's been like number 3 after like Netflix and Disney. They've been constantly trying to get the shows over to them, get the bigger shows. Yes, they've had some successes with The Boys and stuff, but like it makes sense for like Amazon to be like,
this would be a perfect time to make the move. And let me be completely clear here: Amazon is a horrific company that should not be allowed to exist. The amount of money it makes allows it to undercut everyone, and it hurts overall economic growth. That's basic numbers. If you don't understand that, I don't have the time to explain it to you. They are anti-consumerism. They are bad for the world.
but if
But
they
if
can
you're going to be bad for the world and just care about making money, this is their best opportunity in the media space they've had so far.
also, if it means they can screw over Netflix or Disney, I'm all for it, because corporations screwing over other corporations is great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now onto the news that we had planned.
Yes.
I have made a very concerted effort to
Mhm.
not slander Zack Snyder because of his fans being dipshits.
Okay.
Any complaints I have about Zack Snyder, I try to lead to complaints about Zack Snyder.
Mhm.
Like some of the films I didn't enjoy. I think Batman vs Superman is a steaming pile of shit. But his version of the Justice League I very much enjoyed, and Man of Steel I very much enjoyed.
Mhm. Yep.
His fans might be the worst version of film bros. I find Scorsese fans unbearable. I find Tarantino fans unbearable. I would rather live in a world populated solely by them people than ever have to interact with a Zack Snyder fanboy again.
I think that's valid.
The trailer for his Star Wars film that is not a Star Wars film, Rebel Moon, got released. It looks interesting. I will give it a watch.
Mm-hmm.
I shit you not, I saw no less than 15 different accounts quote retweet that trailer and go, Zack Snyder's going to go bigger than Star Wars.
Yeah, okay, good joke.
My brother in Christ, you think Zack Snyder, who managed to crash and burn DC,
It's gonna
is going to, alongside Netflix, create a franchise that will usurp Star Wars?
no chance.
I'm not a big fan of calling people delusional for what they enjoy. That is delusional.
Yeah, thinking that you are going to trump a franchise as big and as ingrained as Star Wars, it's just not fucking happening. Especially not on Netflix, the platform that is dying.
Do you know what's more likely to happen? A bunch of Star Wars fans who hate Disney Star Wars are going to watch it and go, okay, we're sorry, you guys were right. That is genuinely more likely.
Yeah.
But the problem is, there's this weird cult of personality around Zack Snyder, and I don't think it's his fault, because he doesn't actually do anything to create this cult of personality around himself.
Do you know where
he's a really chill guy.
all I think this spawned from was like him saying one time that like, oh, there's a cut that I have of Justice League that we didn't end up doing that was more my version, and then everyone's like, oh my god, Zack Snyder has had the real picture, and then they now think he's this like has this insane vision for everything, and all the studios are putting him down, and it's like, no.
I'm gonna look at Zack Snyder films real quick. Let's have a fucking look here and see what we think. Okay. What's he got credits for? So he did The Watchmen.
Okay.
A film I do enjoy.
Yeah.
However, that the person who wrote the comic book fucking hates it. So take that with a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
He did the 300 films. Good action films, not a lot more to them.
Yeah.
Then he did the Army of stuff for Netflix. Army of the Dead, Army of Thieves. Army of Thieves was a TV show, which is a prequel to Army of the Dead. Army of the Dead is mid as fuck.
I never.
It's okay. It has its moments. Overall, it is mid as fuck.
Okay.
Army of Thieves I haven't watched. I've heard nothing of it. I'm giving it no energy.
Yeah.
Sucker Punch, widely regarded as a piece of shit. I don't think that's a hot take. It's really weirdly sexualizing a very young actress at the time and just weird.
Okay, yeah,
Like,
I don't know anything about that. That's weird as fuck.
I don't know anyone who likes that that's not a bit weird. Then you got Batman versus Superman. For some reason, people are trying to convince the internet that was a good film. It's not. It's a piece
It's
of
not.
shit. That is, I remember it vividly. That is the first time I ever left the cinema angry.
I remember seeing that and thinking, DC's not like,
It's not
this.
competing.
No. I was
Yeah.
like, Marvel's doing so much better than this shit.
That is the first time I've ever left the cinema angry. The second time and the last time I've left the cinema angry was watching Justice League. Not his version, but it was Joss Whedon's take of his version. Josh Whedon did make it infinitely worse, but it's very important to remember Zack Snyder's cut of the Justice League was not actually the cut he told us existed because he did shoot extra stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good
so
point.
he had the chance to read what the internet said and make tweaks. So I'm not willing to give that too much credit. Yes, it's good,
Yeah.
but it also doesn't need to be 4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, Man of Steel, I would say, is probably his only film that I think is comfortably very, very good.
Yeah.
He's also, however, involved in David Ayer's Suicide Squad and the Wonder Woman films. I don't know if that's just as a producer because he was like the head of DC or whatever.
Possibly.
I'm not impressed. He doesn't impress me.
No.
I will watch Rebel Moon. I would give it a chance because there are moments in Zack Snyder films I really enjoy. There is a chance Rebel Moon will be very good.
Yeah.
How dare Schneider fanboys even think this is going to get close to the power of Star Wars?
Do you know what my worry with it though is? Is like, because he wanted it. It was the Star Wars film he wanted to make, right?
Yeah.
I worry
They
there's
didn't want
gonna.
it, so he's retweaked it.
I worry that he's not tweeted enough, and I'm gonna watch it. Or if I go to watch it, I'm just gonna be like, he's trying to rip off Star Wars.
No, I've watched the trailer. It's stylistically very different.
Okay.
The only issue I have with the trailer is the clothes look too normal.
Okay.
Like, you know when you're trying to set a sci-fi world where you've got laser swords and you've got blasters and you've got spaceships dogfighting.
Yeah.
Why am I still seeing a man walk around in what looks like a normal military uniform?
I know what you mean. Yeah, the costume, yeah.
And I don't know if it was just like a couple of bad shots have made it look worse.
Maybe.
But that's the only thing that looked a bit off to me. But that wouldn't be enough to make me go, it's shit. That'd be like a, maybe you could do that differently.
Yeah.
But it'll be good, I'm sure. I know I've just cooked his entire career. I do actually overall think he's okay. Schneider fanboys need to chill the fuck out.
Yeah, they need to just take it down a peg. But...
Yes, 100%. This is really interesting to me, and I'm curious to see how it goes. Trailer for a live-action Fallout series was shown at Gamescom.
So yeah, I knew this was being made, and apparently there's a lot of practical sets and stuff.
Would you like to know the one potentially panic-inducing thing that's already come out about this, though?
Okay.
The poster for it. Obviously, it's like 1950s themed. The car in the background and other cars look like it might be AI generated.
Oh. Why? There's just no need, if that's the case.
Do you know what the problem seems to be? People are making TV shows out of video games.
Yeah.
And they all seem to assume that they've got the next The Last of Us and not the next Halo.
Yeah.
And I think they should assume they've got the next Halo until they're confident they've got the next Last of Us.
The issue is the people that made Halo think it was a success.
is anything that's put on Paramount Plus allowed to be considered a success? I think
the only
automatically
show
anything on Paramount Plus is a failure.
the only show I know that is considered successful on Paramount is Yellowstone. That's the only show I've heard about
Plus.
from Paramount.
Paramount Plus TV shows. What have they got?
Yellowstone's the
TV
ranch cowboy.
Yeah, they've got Yellowstone. They've got some Star Trek.
Oh, okay.
They've got Billions, but you can watch that other places. They've got South Park, which isn't a Paramount Plus original.
No, they've just got.
They've got Dexter, not a Paramount Plus original. Am I seeing anything original, like
Halo.
actually original here? 100% original. I'm not seeing anything. They do have original Star Trek series that weren't aired anywhere else first, but it's still Star Trek.
Yellowstone was always theirs. I think.
Yellowstone is absolutely original.
And then a Halo series, obviously.
And Halo. That seems to be.
Yeah, I worry. Like, I'm not a huge Fallout fan. I was more of an Oblivion, Skyrim fan.
Yeah.
And I feel like people are always one or the other more so.
Yeah, I played Fallout 4. At the time, that was the most hours I'd put into a single-player RPG, and that was about 400.
Yeah, see, I did like that, but on Oblivion and Skyrim.
Yeah.
I am, like you say, concerned this it most likely is going to be the next Halo. It's without seeing the trailer, I guess some people that have seen, like, I worry the Fallout fans are not going to be happy with it.
So here's the thing with Fallout. It has the perfect amount of story for an open world RPG where you can do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
To turn that then into a very specific story for a TV show that is compelling is tricky. Not impossible, but tricky.
Yeah.
Whereas The Last of Us, that was written as a story and they made the gameplay work around the story, which is why that has adapted so well into a TV show.
Yeah. I think
it's the same reason, pardon the arse about face way this will come across, that you could take the Spider-Man games and turn them into a film or story, is because they've decided they want to tell a Spider-Man story and then they put gameplay around it.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's easier for Spider-Man because there's so much material there anyway, but the games where story, how do we fit gameplay in, are going to do infinitely better.
I mean, there's definitely ways they could tell stories in the Fallout universe. There's 100%. The whole, like, different vaults all over the place. Like, if they wanted to, they could tell a story about a singular vault somewhere that we don't know about, and it would work. They just, if they stray too far away from what is accepted as, like, how the world works in Fallout by the gamers, like, this is what happened in Halo. Everyone has a base understanding of how Master Chief operates, taking his helmet off, and sleeping with random women.
Yeah.
As soon as you cross those things, because you don't think the source material is good enough to follow, you instantly alienate a fan base, and they're not going to like your adaptation.
And it comes across as a money grab.
Yes.
But
so, maybe we'll be surprised.
Pessimistic.
Yeah,
but
we've been
not shown us anything to be optimistic about.
Yeah.
So, Barbie, the absolute Giga Chad Warner Brothers movie of the decade, is getting a 1-week iMAX stint back in cinemas at the end of September with bonus footage.
Interesting.
I'll be honest. I don't think the audience that primarily made Barbie its money
will come back.
Is going to give a fuck about paying to see it again in a more expensive ticket to watch it in IMAX for bonus footage.
When is it coming to digital?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because I'm pretty sure it's September something.
5th of September.
So it'll already have been on digital.
Yeah.
So all the people that didn't see it in the cinema will have watched it at home.
Yes.
I
The
don't.
only people I see going to see this are film bros who will always want to watch stuff in IMAX, and
Yeah,
because it's now done so well, they want to go see it just to hate it.
possibly. Yeah. It also just feels like people. It feels like they're just trying to bump
Put it
up
this
their
way:
sheets to say it's made more money.
the final earnings of the Flash are fully in now. They know how much money they lost on that some bitch. They need to make some more money.
They're milking it for everything they can, which isn't a surprise. I don't think the IMAX stint's going to make them that much more.
I don't either. I don't think it's going to hurt any other films, though. I don't think there's any other films coming out that would compete with it in that way. So I don't think it's going to hurt any other films. So I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah,
It's
if
just interesting.
if they timed it with when it was coming out on, or just before it was going to be on digital, like the week before, I'd have been like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, they're pushing, like keeping it relevant, so everyone's like, oh, I could go watch an IMAX, or they'll go get it on digital.
Yeah.
Yeah, bit of a weird one.
But it's interesting.
Yeah.
Monday, just gone. Beginning of
Yes.
this week, Monday, marked 25 years since Wesley Snipes' iconic Blade movie came into cinemas. What would you have been, Hori? 27, 28?
64.
I'm gonna open myself up for a bit of hate here.
Oh,
Never seen it.
you've never seen Blade?
Never seen the original Blade trilogy. And I'd like to point out I am 23 years old. That came out 25 years ago, and it's an 18. So by the time, like, I would have been old enough where I'd be like interested in seeing that 14, 15. We were deep in the middle of the MCU. I didn't give a fuck.
I've seen the Blade trilogy.
At some point, I will watch the Blade Trinity. Trilogy. Sorry,
It is
Trinity.
a great film.
The first one and second one, based on what I've heard, are very good, and the third one,
I don't really have much memory of the third one, probably because I didn't.
By the time we got to the third one, Ryan Reynolds and Wesley Snipes refused to be in scenes together. And Wesley Snipes refused to turn up for rehearsal. He'd smoke weed in his trailer and then walk out to do it. He'd give them one, maybe two takes if they were lucky, and they had to make one of them work.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but
yeah,
it's been 25 years. We're still waiting for the new Blade to get its script.
Yeah, not looking good out here.
Maybe one,
but we'll work it out. One thing I'm very excited for.
Yeah, I haven't seen
We
this.
have got our first trailer for Percy Jackson and the Olympians, which is, of course, the Disney Plus series coming in December, following the Percy Jackson books. It looks good. I'm hyped.
I need to watch the trailer. I never read the Percy Jackson books.
I didn't read the books. I watched the films, which I thought were pretty decent, but I know the author who is working on this wasn't happy with the films, and I know the fans were like, they were kind of cool, but they were very much made for tweens instead of honoring the material.
Yeah, I think I watched the first film potentially, but also because I didn't know the books, I was like, I don't know much about this. I will check out the trailer. Maybe I'll watch it. We'll see. I know people are excited.
Depends how desperate we are for content.
This is true. If we're in a drought, which I don't think we will be.
Yeah, we'll work it out. Yeah. Content championship time.
Yes.
Big boy week this week.
Is it?
I mean, it's two big TV shows for their respective brands.
It's kind of easy
though. Maybe.
I say this every week.
Netflix Punisher versus CW's The Flash.
Mm-hmm.
Bum, bum, bum. It's probably not that difficult, but they are two absolute staples of their respective brands' TV.
Yeah.
And again, it shows that difference between where TV's changed from 24 episodes a season, especially with American shows.
Yeah.
24 episodes a season, formulaic as fuck, procedural, I think is how it's normally described. And then you've got the newer style, 10 episodes. This is the story. Blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, that's 10 segments.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. As always, personal relevance, how well it's aged, rewatchability, story, acting, and cinematography / general eye candiness. Would you like to start us off with Suntal?
Sure. So I'll go flashed first with personal relevance. So I would say we were like in the rise of the MCU, so it was way more into superhero content. Arrow was the first like kind of superhero show that I really got into. I'd watched Smallville in the past, but like that's like sort of lighter stuff. Arrow, obviously, then when Flash came along, I was like, oh great, we're getting like a connected universe in TV. Hope one day that these characters get to go to film. Didn't happen. Missed opportunity. So I was very excited for Flash. Was what like obviously was one of the first like long running superhero TV shows that I kind of got hooked on. So I have a lot of enjoyment. Never fully finished it. I did drop off from it. It got past my enjoyment, and other things at the time were more captivating. Like Netflix Punisher. We talked a couple of weeks ago about Daredevil, how much love we had for that. And Punisher was probably the only other Netflix show that I loved as much as Daredevil. I enjoyed the other ones like Jessica Jones, Luke Cage. Like I watched them, I enjoyed them. But like Punisher and Daredevil were on a different level. Like Punisher, I think really made me fall in love with John Bernthal as an actor. I think he did an incredible job.
Yeah.
And that probably really changed my expectation for superhero shows. What about you?
I think I agree mostly. Netflix Marvel shows were goated at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Before we got into Iron Fist and the Defenders, they had no misses. And we had little to no other superhero shows at the time that weren't Villain of the Week.
Mm-hmm.
So it really was able to carve out its own little area to show us what we could have. The Flash is my favorite hero. I've never hidden from that.
Yep.
Grant Gustin's take on Barry Allen was really good.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I did fall out of love with the show and stop watching after like series 6, I think Savitar was the last season I watched. So that was, I think, 5, 6, or 7. It was one of them. I like the show still holds a special place in my heart. One day I do want to go and finish it just so like I've completed it and I know like the whole story. But it was very much American TV as it always is. And I feel like a lot of British people hold this opinion because our shows, a lot of goated British shows ended too soon. And everyone just sits there and goes, I would love one more season, and we just never get it.
Yeah.
Whereas American shows have this habit of going on 3 or 4 seasons too long.
Too long, yeah.
And I think The Flash is another victim of that. I would love to see a Flash show done in the style of Netflix's superhero shows, where this is a 10-episode series, this is the arc, go.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, they're very different shows, and we definitely prefer the style of the Netflix.
Yeah, Punisher.
How well has it aged?
I'd say Punisher's aged just as well as Daredevil did. Like everyone has been, the fact that people to this day are wanting John Bernthal back as Punisher and to have the Netflix Punisher back as a character in the MCU, I think shows how well it's aged.
Yeah, 100%.
There's a reason people talk about Daredevil and Punisher from the Netflix period and not Luke Cage and the Defenders and Iron Fist. Like,
bearing in mind the Punisher finished in 2018, it's been
mm,
5 years
and people,
and people still want it.
yeah. For the Flash, I feel like out of all the CW shows, it's aged the best. It was around the longest. It was the last one standing. But like we both said, we grew out of it. The hero of the week thing kind of, as Netflix came along with their style and as the MCU grew, like that just kind of aged out, in my opinion.
100%. Yeah, Punisher's aged phenomenally well. John Bernthal is the Punisher. And it's actually becoming more and more difficult, I think, as an actor to get that level of association with a character.
Yeah.
And I think he's probably one of the last to actually pull it off.
I feel that.
I think it's actually too early to tell how well the Flash has aged because it only finished like 6 months ago.
True, that's true.
I think it was overhated towards the end, and people treated it like it was offensive.
Yeah.
People already miss Grant's version of the Flash. There were calls for him to be the DCU's Flash.
Yeah.
I think in 10 to 15 years' time, a new generation of fan is going to find the Flash, and it's going to be their guilty pleasure show.
Yeah. I think you can
it's
have
very easy to watch.
A similar situation to people that went back and watched Smallville because they remembered.
You are completely right.
I remember watching that. Let's go back and watch it all.
Yeah, and then they just get that nice nostalgia feel of something safe that they remember from a simpler time.
Yeah.
Rewatchability.
Punisher by far is more rewatchable to me. Flash, sure you could watch the episode here and there, and it's like, cool, yeah, hero of the week, like villain of the week, it's fine. You don't need the context of the fuller thing, but Punisher as a whole is just like, because it's one cohesive story that's like chopped into 10 episodes, it's like, it's more captivating, and I'd happily sit down and binge that, no problem.
Oh, that's exactly what I've said. Rewatchability for Punisher is mad high. If it wasn't for the fact that there is so much to watch and rewatching stuff stops me being able to watch new stuff, I probably would have rewatched it by now. Flash, right now for me, low to none rewatchability. Yeah. But like I said, maybe one day I would like to go back and watch it all in one go, binge it, and just again have that little nostalgia feel. And no, I finished it and seen that full arc. Now, it might have seemed like we've curb stomped Flash into the ground already. These three are very one-sided, though. Story.
I mean, Punisher by far. Like, it actually has a cohesive story that is not just villain of the week.
Yeah.
Flash, as we keep saying, is villain of the week. It's pretty bog standard. The story is nothing extraordinary. Kind of gets repetitive at times.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure you feel the same.
Yeah, no, I'm the exact same. I think that Netflix Punisher is absolute peak storytelling. It really handles the more intricate parts of the Punisher very well. And adds a lot to it instead of making it a very simple, oh, he's a hero who just kills everyone and doesn't give a fuck. The Flash had its highs and lows. It has some really good, like 1 or 2 episode arcs that are really well put together with really thought-provoking storytelling going on. But as is always the problem, they will write 6 phenomenal episodes for a 24 episode series and then ram in another 18 episodes.
Yeah.
And that's where you get your lows. But overall, it's mid. And I don't mean that in a that's mid as fuck. I mean, most stuff on planet Earth has to be mid.
True. Very true.
Yeah. It is mid. It sits in that bracket of it's good enough to watch when there's nothing else on, but it's not something that you're going to go, that was an experience.
Yeah.
Apart from the odd episode.
Agreed.
Acting.
We've said it already, but John Bernthal is the Punisher.
Yeah.
He embodies that character.
It's very good. Like, the one scene that always comes to mind from The Punisher is when he goes to the jewelry store to buy some radio equipment, and the guy tries to sell him some child abuse videos,
Hmm.
and then he locks the door and just wails on the guy and
Yeah.
kills him. And it's just that whole interaction, like the tension in that scene. Because obviously, Frank doesn't like this guy because this guy's a criminal, but Frank understands a certain level of criminal he has to tolerate to deal with
Yeah.
worse criminals.
Yep.
And then this guy just manages to tip himself
too far
into that scale where Frank's like, right, well, I've got to kill you now.
Yeah, you just
and it's the scenes like that that really round out the overall story.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, The Flash is the exact same as with the story. It's average, mostly. It has its highs, it has its lows. Grant Gustin, I think, is consistently above average.
Yeah, he plays an incredible Flash.
I think the rest of the cast have their moments. A lot of it's down to writing, like I said, when you're being forced to write 24 episodes for a season and the entire story could be told in 12. You're going to get a lot of exposition that's not needed and random filler arcs that end up not mattering because you've told your 6.
Yeah, you've told the main story.
And then you're putting in these arcs in between that you've not thought about. And then the character feels like they've made a development just to go back to how they were before.
Yeah.
Made a development just to go back to how they were before. So it's okay, but nothing to write home about.
Agreed.
Cinematography / general visual appeal.
I mean, Flash is classic TV show budget and aesthetic and what you would expect from a TV level show. Netflix.
When they pushed the budget up a little bit on The Flash, you saw the benefits. And then when they reduced the budget a bit, you saw the negative effect.
Yeah.
With like the way the Flash is and his powers taking money away, like there are a couple of them seasons toward the end, like 7 and 8, when they were given shoestring budget.
Yeah,
you can really, really tell.
I can imagine.
Whereas
Netflix budgets are always wild. We said it with Daredevil, like the production that they put into Punisher set it, as we've said, set it into a whole new era of like superhero TV shows that were more film-esque, and they really pushed the boat out.
You can say what you want about overall the Netflix Marvel TV shows, even Iron Fist and Defenders, which overall had a poor story, looked beautiful.
Yeah, they're all shot.
They had
incredibly.
Yeah, they had a consistent style and tone across all of them, which made them feel like they were all happening in the same city, which they were, and they were all very well executed.
Yep, they really were.
Even if the Netflix stuff isn't your taste story-wise, I won't hear a bad word said about how good them shows look, because they look phenomenal.
Yeah, Netflix knew what they were doing.
100%. I think it's pretty resounding Punisher win.
Yeah.
Shout out Grant Gustin. I love that man. And The Flash was definitely a fun part of my superhero experience.
Agreed. Yeah. It was the fun early days of more content was coming out. And it's like, I think the one saddest thing I have is like, it was a missed opportunity of using him in the DCEU.
100%.
And unfortunately now it's like it's past the point of him being he's been the Flash, he's done with the Flash, like it's ready for a new era of Flash.
Exactly. Next week we've got another monster showdown. Man of Steel versus Captain America Winter Soldier.
Oh well, I know where you're going.
What do you mean?
Henry Cavill.
But that is it from us this week. We'll be back next week with
Yes, we
more
will.
character profiles, more Ahsoka reviews, more good
Yes.
stuff. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
We'll see you next week.
Goodbye.